Hi everyone, I received a call today from my son asking me how to repair a puncture on his mountain bike. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown that we're currently under, I can't go down and show him, so I'm going to do this remotely, and I thought I'll just produce a quick video. So first things first, what you need to do is just ensure that you've got a pair of nitrile gloves and similar, just to prevent your hands from becoming mucky. I'll pop those on. If I turn it upside down, make sure it's steady. I've got the quick release here, and I'll be removing the rear wheel because this will be the most difficult one to remove. It's got the chain and the derailleur. Right, so here we go. So first thing we do is we remove the quick release. Just unwind it a few turns, and this is where you have to pull the derailleur back out the way. So there we have it, the tyre is now removed from the bike. As I don't have a puncture, I'm just going to demonstrate with this tyre quickly. What I'll do is I'll just open up the valve cap. Be sure to remove that little nut that holds the valve in position, so you can pull the valve out through the rim. I'm going to release the air. Now that I've released all the air from the inner tube, now the trick is to try and get the tyre off the rim. In modern day tyres it's relatively easy. If you've got the strength, you could probably just pull it off the rim, but you would need strong hands to do that. An easier method to remove the tyre from the rim is to use a set of tyre levers. These are the modern day plastic ones, so they don't do any damage to the rim. I could probably get away with using one or two of these, so I'll show you exactly how it works. So the tyre lever is inserted between the rim and the tyre. Be sure not to pinch the inner tube. You can see the inner tube just poking through there. You don't want to pinch that. So there, I've got this one. This tyre is relatively loose, so I can just pull it with one. Most times you'd probably need two tyre levers, and I've inserted them like that, as you can see, and then you just drag the one tyre lever all the way around the rim to release the tyre. So I'll do that next. It'll be easier if I do it this way around. So there we have the tyre that's come apart from the rim. If you don't have a set of plastic tyre levers, don't despair. You can get yourself a spoon and use the back handle of the spoon in the same manner that you would a tyre lever. One thing you'd have to be careful of is damaging the rim with a metal spoon. So if you're going to use the tablespoon method instead of the tyre levers, just please take care you don't damage your rim. So here we've located the valve, and you want to be sure to push the valve through the rim first, and then you're going to remove the inner tube from this point all the way down. So if I do that now, pulling the inner tube out, and there we have the inner tube and the tyre. One of the most important aspects to the tyre repair process is to make sure you've got whatever it was that punctured your tyre in the first place. You've got to make sure that you've got that removed from the tyre. So the method I do is I'll take my fingers and I run them around the inside of the tyre. As I'm rotating the tyre here, I can feel for any sharp objects that have penetrated the tyre. Once I've identified one, you could have a look inside your tyre, and depending on how it's situated, you either pull it through the tyre or push it back out. Next you'll need a pump, and you're going to want to put some air into the punctured inner tube, and then we're going to check for punctures. How we check for punctures is you get yourself a bowl full of water and you submerge the inner tube under the water until you see a series of bubbles. That will indicate exactly where the puncture is located. So, as a demonstration, I'll just quickly pump up the tire, put a little bit of air in here. Now if you have a large puncture, you'll probably be able to see it with the naked eye, but sometimes the punctures are so small you're unable to see them with your eyes. So the best way to do it is get yourself a bowl and fill it with water and submerge the inner tube under the water to have a look for those little bubbles. So here I have my bowl filled with water. And what you do is, generally I'll start from the valve. That's the very first place, because sometimes you get the valves that leak from the valve stems. So you check that first. You just submerge it under the water and have a look to see if you see any bubbles. You repeat this process all the way around the tube until you find your puncture point. Like I said, you're looking for a series of bubbles, and more than likely, as you get to submerge it under the water, when the pinhole touches the surface of the water, you'll hear a lot of noise from that pinhole prick if you've gone over a thorn. Next up would be to get yourself a puncture repair kit. The puncture repair kit consists of a tube of glue, some patches in various sizes, instructions, and an emery cloth. These are the instructions that came with the puncture repair kit. So what you do is you take your emery cloth on the point where you found the puncture and you rub it gently, you rough it up just like that. Next up, you would take your glue, you would apply it in an area larger than the patch over and around the puncture hole that you found. You then wait 5 minutes. After waiting 5 minutes, you'd remove the backing foil from the patch. You would then place the patch over the puncture and you'd apply some pressure in all directions, pushing down and outwards to remove any air bubbles, and you'd keep applying pressure for a short amount of time. Once you've applied your patch, you'd release any air pressure in the inner tube. Now I'm going to reinsert the inner tube into the tire. You need to ensure that you have a small amount of air that's been pumped into the inner tube. This is to prevent the inner tube from twisting as you reinsert it back into the tire. So to reinsert the inner tube into the tire, you first want to place the valve through the hole in the rim. Once you place the valve through the hole, you want to take the lock nut and tighten the lock nut onto the valve. Now you're ready to start. You roll the inner tube right the way around the tire. Now you're ready to pull the tire beading back onto the rim. This is where you have to be very careful you don't pinch the inner tube. I'll work my way around the tire. you'll get to a point where it isn't easy to pull the tyre onto the rim. So with the help of my tyre lever, you pop it in there, make sure you haven't got the inner tube pinched, and you just put the tyre over the rim like that. So there you have it. You've got your inner tube inside your tyre and you're ready to start pumping it up. A word of caution before inflating your tyre is always check your manufacturer's specifications. My tyre here states inflate to 30 psi to 50 psi. So we're going to inflate the tyre now to between 30 and 50 psi. Hopefully I can do it one-handed. So now that we've inflated the tyre within the manufacturer's specifications, we can now fit it to the bike. If you've got the same type of valve as I do, just make sure that you lock the inner part. I've got my wheel, I pull the chain, I've got to pull the derailleur slightly back. Ensure that you've got the brake disc aligned with the brake caliper. The modern brake calipers have got a spring to keep the pads apart, but some of the older ones didn't, so just make sure that you haven't pushed one of the pads out. And if you've got the V-type brakes that brake against the edge of the rim, just make sure you've got the cable released there. You should have a little quick release just to open up the brakes and keep them away from the rim. So here I've inserted the rear wheel with a quick release, just tightening it up. And that's it, we're good to go. This video was originally intended to help my son repair a puncture on his mountain bike, but if anybody else has found it useful, please click the like button. Thank you very much and stay safe. Cheers.